Are you sharing on Facebook?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am. I'm working on it.
Ciao Marco.
Okay.
Ah, Marco.
Marco Isidori.
Marco Isidori.
Grande.
Ciao, Marco. And Mark, sorry to interrupt. Do you want a specific title for your talk? Do you have one? So I can put the same on the live stream, but it's just you know.
We call it Challenges of Lake Malawi.
Okay, yeah. Okay, that's fine.
And I don't know if you saw it in here. We changed a little bit on some of the layout in the interview.
That is fine. I can roll with it. That's fine.
Yeah. You'll adapt.
Of course.
Enea is very good on making summaries. So
yeah,
I think you can go straight.
Livio, where do we share this? To the page or to the group? I don't remember.
The group.
Group.
Okay. Facebook group.
Yeah.
Ok.
Siamo riusciti l'ultima volta.
Yes, I'm working on it, but Associazione. Okay. Because it's not named AIC, it's named Associazione Italiana Ciclidofili, il gruppo, so I never find it.
Yes. Yeah.
Something Italian.
Okay, preparing live stream. Okay.
Yeah, I see now. You're live streaming it.
Yeah.
Almost. I only see the loading thing, but okay. Now we are live. Yes.
Yes, I see too.
We're almost on time.
Facciamo ancora 2 o 3 minuti, poi partiamo? Proprio 2.
Ok.
Ma dai, sono belli questi pesci del Malawi. Così giusto per alimentare un po' di polemica.
Questo è il Tropheops, giusto?
Yes.
What is this? Red cheek?
Red cheek species. A 21:05 iniziamo.
Stai già registrando, Livio?
Pete Barnes want to come in. I send him the link.
A tutti.
Ciao Miles.
Ciao Miles.
Ciao Miles. No, almeno a te a Tommaso vi vedo proprio bene.
Ciao Giuseppe.
Ciao Marco, te non ti vedevo. Come state ragazzi?
Bene. Tu Giuseppe?
Bene, bene.
No. Io sto di un'eccellenza incredibile, ragazzi.
Dipartimento di eccellenza.
Sto per ammutimarmi, sì, no.
Ma in effetti sei in bianco e nero.
Io sono in bianco e nero.
Grey and white, cioè non so.
No, cioè è il filtro
Tanganica.
gotico.
Ma che filtro hai, Giuseppe?
Il filtro Tanganica.
I know why.
Che filtro hai messo?
So.
Because you keep Tanganyika cichlids.
So. Non so se devo attivare qualche cosa. Sfoga il mio sonno.
No, vai bene così, sono loro
No,
che sono
ok.
Ma no, stiamo scherzando.
No,
It's a joke. It's a joke. Va bene. Cosa dite? Iniziamo?
Vai.
Yeah. Enea, sei caldo?
Kind of.
Caldissimo.
Livio, tu devi fare l'introduzione, poi io...
Vabbè, ma io la faccio velocissima, va bene?
Sì,
Allora
devi
io
solo
inizio,
devi solo dire che le domande si fanno alla fine, per favore.
Perfetto, sì, sì, va benissimo. Allora, va bene, iniziamo stasera una nuova serata, questa volta sul lago Malawi. Ringraziamo Mark Thomas che è tornato con noi online a presentare dei suoi bei video e anche fotografie. Era già stato nel 2020 in diretta durante il congresso, se vi ricordate. Quindi adesso abbiamo un denso appuntamento serale, denso. Chiedo di fare per favore le domande alla fine, ok? Quindi Mark Thomas può iniziare. You go, thanks for all. Magari chiudiamo, disattiviamo l'audio, tutti gli altri, anche il video, così.
Hi, Pepe.
Mark, we're ready for you and Isaac when you are. Livio introduced you, and so we can roll like you guys have planned.
Oh, okay. So when you have Isaac, he will start, and I think in here we changed so much, so you just have to adapt a little bit in the process to the translation.
That is fine.
I believe you. You'll find out. But the word is Isaac's. He's the one doing the interview.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, Isaac.
Buonasera a tutti. Hello. Good evening, everyone. First off, I would like to say thank you to the Italian Cichlids Association for allowing me as a guest to join. Thank you so much, Tommaso. I have to admit, I'm a bit jealous of the quality of riffs that you and Matteo Tornazzi have at Azunga. Belpisce. And yeah, as well, I wish to say thank you to Enia. Congratulazione, Enia, on your very beautiful article in the Cichlid News magazine of April this year.
Thank you.
Yeah, reading it was an absolute joy for me regarding the Tropheus species Maliro, Tanzania. In today's discussion, I wish to say that Ed Connings once said, and I do quote, "Il lago sta morendo è una storia triste." The lake is dying. It's a sad story. But on a lighter note, I wish to introduce Mark Thomas. The first time I met Mark, he struck me as such a kind person, and he has such a passion for Lake Malawi cichlids that it is inspiring to me. We share the same values, and for that I admire him a lot. He told me about being a small boy and seeing Labiotropheus trevavasi for the first time, and at that exact moment he became obsessed. So Mark's story reminds me so much about my own first experience with these beautiful and amazing fish, and how being unable to even pronounce the scientific names made me laugh. He has such a passion for Malawian cichlids, and throughout the years we have continued to have a healthy debate and a lot of debates about the Lake of Stars, specifically speaking about eureka moments. We always laugh, and we share the same views and values about any situations or topics at hand. He enlightened me a lot with his treasure trove of insight and knowledge with regards to his observations in the lake, and for that I will never be able to thank him enough. Thank you, Mark. We never take a scientific approach, and in fact the cichlids always speaks for themselves, so we only have to observe, and that's the beauty of it all. How are you today, brother?
Fine, thank you, Isaac. Thank you very much. Yeah, that thing with the Travavase, I do talk about that sometimes, that I remember when I was just that young boy, I had the aquarium for maybe 1 or 2 years, and I was in a store. After 1 year, I was in a store with my parents, and we were getting into Malawi cichlids, and actually those fish they went to our joint tank because I was too young to take care of it myself. And a year later, we go back to the store and want to buy some more travavasae. And there I am, the young boy, talking to one of those guys working in the store and saying, I would like some Labiotropius vasivasi. And I don't have a picture of that one, but I have a similar picture of what it was, which I took in the lake some years back from Mitande and Tumbi West. Back then it was not yet a national park, so I guess they had a good source. I didn't have them wild, but they looked much more close to the real thing back then than what you see in the business today, unless you actually get some wild or F1 fish. So yeah, that's a good memory. And that guy I told that I would like some vasivasi, he started laughing a little bit, and he took me to the tank, and then he pointed at the name, the text, and then he slowly helped me to say it in the right way. And he's a friend today, even now today. And most of you guys know him very well. He loves Lake Tanganyika cichlids more. He has a frog as his profile picture on Facebook. It's Max Bjørneskov, who was in the store back then, so many years ago.
I didn't know. Nice.
Yeah.
So you started keeping cichlids in the, I believe it was since the mid-80s, but that was not enough for you, so you had to, so to speak, dive a little bit deeper, as they would say. You've been breeding a lot of Malawian cichlids now for a very, very long time. I mean, you had a small shop for over 20 years ago. You had a small shop, a small business that you had as well. And later on, you exported as well to Europe and North America. And then you went to Tanzania, and you dove there along the coastline, and you provided as well export options to some of your clients in Europe. And yeah, as you told me, it didn't go that very well because of the crook, and it was as well during COVID, the COVID pandemic. But lastly, you started a preservation NGO, and over the years you studied a little bit of ecology, biology, chemistry, photography, food, and much, much more. And yeah, not to mention, even you are obviously a diver that went to Lake Malawi for more than over 20 years. And perhaps, I believe, only Connings and Gizzle surpasses you in your diving experience. So how did your passion start out specifically for the Malawian cichlids? I know you spoke about the Labiotrophis trebavasi, but did you move on to other species, or where did it actually started getting really serious, where you were getting addicted to it?
Wow. I remember when it all started for me. That was, of course, before the travavasae. I have just been a young boy. Our parents, we visit some family, and there they had some aquariums. This picture here is from early 80s, and I believe we might have visited them the first time maybe in 85 or something like that. That time, this aquarium here, there was a lot of plants, and there was a red-tailed labeo. That was not a cichlid, obviously. But the thing with the water and something moving around in the water and all that, I don't know, but it just started something in me, and I spoke about it all the time, and told my parents we should also have a tank, obviously. And they waited a year. Then when I still was talking about it, they knew that, okay, this boy, he's serious with this thing, and that's when it all started. The cichlids, when there was not so many. Of course, Denmark is different than all other countries in the world. I believe that we are kind of the mother nation to Lake Malawi and Tanganyika cichlids worldwide, especially in the late 80s and 90s. It was very big, much bigger than the rest of the world. So there was some people in the stores around that started to talk about Malawi cichlids and so on, and we got a good suggestion where we could go, and I never regret going to this store where Max were. Max was not there in the beginning. It was another guy, Pierre, who was there. But that time we had already got some cichlids from other places, but not that serious places. But after meeting Pierre in what they call flyvefisken back then, things started to get more serious, and what can I say? There's so much to talk about, really, but some years later, I hear about this maniac, this crazy guy going to Lake Malawi in 1996. I don't know if you know who that might be, but we talk about him on our island near Copenhagen. And this guy, he lives in Aalborg, the other side of Denmark. And we talk a lot about what he does. And one day I decide to give him a call and ask him why he's selling these wild-caught cichlids so cheap when we are not doing that. So I end up visiting Carsten Gissel in what could be the late 90s or maybe 2000 or something like that. And that time he had already went some years to Lake Malawi, and we talk a lot. Let's say we really talk a lot about cichlids back then, and he's the one who brought me to the lake for the first time, meeting also Stuart Grant. So what can I say? It's like one thing took the other thing, but for the passion for the Lake Malawi cichlids and also Tanganyika has always been there. I cannot recall that it has ever been reduced. It's like a lot of my friends, they lose the interest sometimes, but when they see me just a few hours somewhere, it blooms up again. Their interest comes back. You know, I'm kind of that thing. When they are around me, they get more into the cichlids again. For me, it never dropped off. I mean, from when I saw this poor aquarium in the mid 80s, which is nothing really to talk about, but that's just what started it. And then it became alive.
So Mark, you've been diving within the Lake of Skulls for many years now. Out of all the localities you dove, which is your absolute favorite? You're not allowed to say it on the Tanzanian side, so.
you know that question is very difficult, because I had a lot of favorite places, and I believe also sometimes they are changing, that I have some new favorites, but there's one place that has been unique to me since early on, and I think I was diving there even on my first trip, and I have come back there again many times, and even a few months ago I was there. and it's Zimbabwe rock. And what was so special about Zimbabwe rock is, of course, there is one of my favorite fish, the Travavasae, but this one is bigger than the one from Tumbi West. This one is twice the size, and when they get older, the orange red is coming down on the back. And to me, Zimbabwe rock was really special because of this fish, but it's also the diving location and how you get into the deep, which really struck me as something interesting, because it goes so deep. I met a guy in the national park. I don't know if it's good that I have the audio on when I'm talking.
Yep,
There's
we can hear you okay.
Bubbles and noise. But Zimbabwe rock is very deep. And this guy I met, he said he went into the cave in the rock at 32 meters, and he dove all the way down through the rock and came out at 132 meters and went up to the surface outside the rock, which is of course crazy. And you cannot do this on atmospheric air, which we are diving on. You have to dive on rebreather system. But I have been inside that rock with Carsten and Kenneth many years ago. We were going down, and we were just going down, 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 and then we went in through a crack in the rock, which was so narrow that we had to help each other through so that we didn't sit stuck in the opening. And in there we were trying to find some not an eel, but something like that, eating the fish. We didn't see it, but Carsten, he found a new fish, or we can say we found a new fish inside the cave there, because no one else apparently dived in there before. But it's not about finding new fish. It's just that it's out in the open water, and it's a more advanced dive around this rock here. But well, I can say there are many other favorite places as well, but because of my favorite fish there, it's probably the one I mentioned. That's why.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you had the privilege of meeting the late Stuart Grant, which were an exporter and a connoisseur in the field of Malawian cichlids during the early 2000s. Can you tell us more about him as a person? Is there something that you will never forget about him that is really special to you, something that stood out for you about him as a person?
I have met Stuart sometimes. I believe this photo here it's a few years before he died. He died in 2007. He's a warm kind of person, but he's also that kind of old school. He's English, and I like the older generations because they have not become so polluted in their mind as I believe the whole culture thing, the whole world is today. I like the old school, and he was one of them. I like him for having a true passion. He didn't like German guys, and it's not a negative thing for all the Germans listening, but what he didn't like was that they were too much thinking about making business and making money, which is obviously, it could be a good thing, but Stuart, he was both. He knew how to make business in a difficult country with Africans, which we will come into later, how difficult that mind is in Africa. And he knew how to use those people in a good way. Stuart, he was also passionate about the cichlids, and I like that about him. I remember I remember him saying to me that one day when I find a woman in my life, I will sit there with candlelight and everything, and we will have a nice dinner until my Placidochromis giseli, they start breeding. And when they start breeding, he said, now you will run away from the table and the candles, and you will go to your tank and you will watch your giseli breed. I think this time he was mentioning it, that was before anyone was breeding that fish, obviously. So this time, only Gisel himself and I were having this fish. So he was the kind of person that that know people. I believe he's good at spotting people who they are. Obviously, I never got married. Maybe that's why. But it's not the giseli's fault. Talking about the giseli, notice the tail here on the preorbitalis. The giseli can almost fit on the tail there. But Stuart, we do miss him a lot, because I think an era died with him. Something that we will never get back. And I know also Carsten and other people, they do miss him a lot. We do miss our conversations with Stuart. And I do remember his voice when I'm waking up and he's in the restaurant and he's there talking to people, and I'm thinking, oh, now I'm also going there. So you'll find Stuart there, and you'll have a nice chat with him. I want another time that I recall with him was when I was trying to make a deal with some locals, and I was telling him about it, and he said, okay, let's bring this guy here. And then Stuart, he bring him to the table, he bring up his notebook, and he start to write down, who are you, what's your name, where do you live? This guy, he likes to have a good order. He likes to put the things that he do in a good way, that you don't get surprised later. I mean, you don't make a deal only by saying something, you write things down. And that's also something I could learn from him. That struck me as a good thing. Last year we went there, and every time going to SMG, we also visit, of course, Stuart and talk to him there.
Io sto giocando qua. Devo rimanerci per forma, Roby. Vai a letto? No, mi prendo tutto volo. No.
So, I don't know, Isaac, what more to say, but I can talk a lot about Stuart, but
no problem. I believe we've got better stuff to talk about, which is the hot topics you want to mainly focus on. So for the overfishing, there's ornamental, and obviously the people, they need to eat. So that's a big issue around the lake. And so you have the ornamental side, and then you have the fishermen. So there's this old saying that give a person a fish, you know, and he can, a poor man, and he can eat for a day, but teach him how to fish and he'll never be hungry. So with the ornamental side, we as hobbyists and within the scientific community regarding the ornamental side, one can curb that to a certain extent, and you can stop over exploitation of specific ornamental species within the lake that are very highly desired because of the colors and the vibrant, the robust, beautiful fish. But when it comes to the fishermen, it's a whole different ball game. And it gets political at one point. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that regarding your topics that you want to focus on?
Of course. I don't know, Inia, do you want to give a short resume before I start talking about these subjects?
Of course, I can do that if it works for you guys. Ok, allora ci prendiamo un attimo per fare un piccolo resoconto in italiano per chi non ha seguito tanto l'intervista in inglese. Ovviamente non traduco tutto, ma faccio una sintesi delle cose che mi sono sembrate più interessanti. Niente, la discussione è partita dal primo pesce che Mark ha mai tenuto, il primo pesce del Malawi, che Mark ha mai tenuto nella sua lunga carriera acquarofila e poi da esperto del settore, che è stato il Labeotrofeus trevavase. Era ancora un ragazzino e lo comprò per metterlo nella vasca, che non era solo la sua, ma era anche dei genitori, in un negozio in Danimarca, che era un po' l'ombelico del mondo della ciclidofilia in quegli anni, negli anni '80, ed era un Labeotrofeus trevavase di Tumby West. Poi c'è stata un po' una congiunzione di cose, perché essere nell'ombelico del mondo della ciclidofilia in Danimarca, insomma, in realtà ci ha spiegato che questo pesce l'aveva comprato da un altro abbastanza famoso appassionato, qui però piace il Tanganica, che è Max Bjornsson, che lavorava lì all'epoca. E quindi questo è stato, diciamo, il suo primo approccio. Poi Mark si è interessato, ha fatto una lunga carriera, ha avuto un negozio, ha esportato ciclidi dal Malawi professionalmente verso l'Europa. In maniera più importante ha un sacco di immersioni nel lago Malawi, ci hanno raccontato che solo Aquatics e Carsten Giesel hanno più immersioni al lago di lui, quindi diciamo è in ottima compagnia. E la prima cosa che l'ha interessato negli acquari, in realtà attorno a metà degli anni '80, è stata vedere quella vasca da degli amici di famiglia, che con degli Oscar, e si ricorda che c'era anche un labeo bicolor di quelli neri con la coda rossa. E ovviamente non erano solo ciclidi, ma questa cosa della vita acquatica, dei pesci e così, gli ha fatto scattare qualcosa che non l'ha più abbandonato. Quindi ha continuato per un anno intero, cioè, a dire ai suoi genitori che insomma volevano un acquario, che dovevano prenderlo anche loro e tutto quanto. I suoi genitori saggiamente hanno aspettato, però dopo un anno che continuava a dirlo hanno detto beh, forse è veramente convinto, allora hanno preso questo acquario, e da lì insomma poi è diventato piano piano il Mark che conosciamo oggi. Poi siamo andati un po' più nel tempo, no, ancora nel passato, però in un Mark ormai adulto. È importante la sua connessione con Carsten Giesel, che è un altro, insomma, danese illustre, per chi conosce i pesci del Malawi, in generale la ciclidofilia è abbastanza impossibile non conoscerlo. Insomma, si chiacchierava molto delle cose che Carsten faceva in Malawi. Ovviamente lui esportava anche pesci selvatici in epoche non sospette. Marco un giorno decide di telefonargli, i due diventano amici, si parlano, e Marco finisce per andare in Malawi appena prima del 2000 con Carsten. E da lì insomma poi rimane in questo tunnel da cui non uscirà più, non c'è ancora uscito, e va tante volte in Malawi, dove insomma assieme a Carsten ovviamente conosce anche Stuart Grant. C'è stata qualche domanda di approfondimento poi su Stuart, che persona era. Sappiamo tutti che Stuart insomma è stato una delle figure più influenti, sicuramente l'esportatore del lago Malawi più famoso di sempre. Stuart era una persona inglese, più grande di Mark, tristemente non c'è più, ci ha lasciato nel 2007, ma Mark l'ha conosciuto all'incirca nel 2000, quindi ha visto un po', diciamo, la fase finale nel business, uno Stuart maturo, insomma, molto navigato anche nei suoi rapporti con l'Africa, con i locali e tutto quanto. E insomma, Isaac gli ha chiesto un po' quali sono alcune cose che si ricorda di Stewart. Fabio mi dice che non si sente, gli altri mi sentono? Ok, gli altri mi sentono. Allora sarà un problema di Fabio. Chiede cosa, appunto, cosa si ricorda in particolare di Stewart, che ovviamente è una personalità gigantesca, e Mark ci ha tenuto a sottolineare alcune cose, che Stewart era una persona molto inglese, un po' old school, ma nel senso positivo del termine, e che non gli piacevano tanto i tedeschi, in cui insomma faceva un sacco di affari, ma Stewart, a differenza di questi grandi importatori tedeschi a cui poi vendeva un sacco di pesci, a lui non piaceva solo il business, e non lo faceva solo per il business, ma era veramente appassionato dei cicli del Malawi come suo interesse personale, al di là dell'attività commerciale che aveva. E ci ha raccontato questa cosa divertente che Stewart gli disse una volta: un giorno, quando Mark ti sposerai e avrai una bella donna, saremo qui e sarai lì a vedere, a fare una cena romantica al lume di candela, sarà tutto meraviglioso, ma tu ti girerai con la coda dell'occhio, vedrai i tuoi Placidochromis giseli che stanno cominciando a riprodursi, mollerai tutto, donna, cena e tutto quanto, e ti incollerai, andrai lì alla vasca e ti metterai a guardare i tuoi pesci che si riproducono. Ovviamente qui c'è anche un link al fatto che i Placidochromis giseli a quell'epoca ce li avevano solo Mark e Carsten Giesel stesso, che ovviamente giseli arriva dal nome di Carsten, e nessuno li aveva riprodotti fino allora. Poi vabbè, Mark riuscirà a riprodurli, insomma è uno dei suoi badge di ciclidofilo professionale, il fatto di insomma aver avuto successo anche con questa specie che era molto difficile fino a un po' di tempo fa. L'ultima cosa, in realtà è la cosa prima, ma nel discorso sono andato prima su Stewart, Isaac gli ha chiesto qual è la sua località preferita di immersione nel lago Malawi dopo tutti questi anni, aver visto tantissimi posti, e Mark dice che insomma i posti cambiano un po' nel tempo, anche se rivai allo stesso posto dopo diversi anni è un po' cambiato, ma il suo preferito, se dovesse sceglierne uno, è Zimbabwe Rock, che ci ha fatto anche vedere quella roccetta che spunta. Poi in realtà sotto è una catasta immensa di pietre, e gli piace particolarmente per due motivi. Uno, che c'è un po' il suo pesce preferito, che è sempre il Labiotrofeus. Penso che quello che ci sia lì, ha detto che i colori sono simili, ci ha fatto vedere sempre questo corpo blu dorsale arancione, ma non è quello di Tumby West, perché è grande il doppio, quindi penso sia un Fulleborni, questa è la mia differenza, no? E non un Trevavase. E poi insomma l'arancione che ha sulla dorsale, quando il pesce matura, insomma va un po' anche sul corpo, e quindi è uno dei suoi pesci preferiti e c'è molto affezionato per quello. Poi gli piace anche l'immersione in sé, che è un'immersione un po' più difficile, avanzata, e può andare anche molto fondo. Ci ha raccontato che conosce una persona che è andato lì, è entrato in questa grande caverna che c'è a Zimbabwe Rocks, e l'ingresso è a circa 31-32 metri. Questa persona ovviamente è andata equipaggiata perché sarebbe morta, è andata con un rebreather, quindi uno di questi autorespiratori che non fanno le bolle, è un circuito chiuso e poi c'è un filtro in cui sostanzialmente non respiri aria dalla bombola, la butti fuori, ma è un circuito chiuso in cui poi l'aria viene rifiltrata, viene sottratta la CO2 con dei filtri chimici, insomma è una roba un po' da Rambo, però è l'unico modo per poter andare così fondi e tornare su a raccontarlo. E quindi è entrato a 31 metri, si è fatto tutta la caverna ed è uscito a 132 metri dall'altra parte. E questa era solo la caverna, poi ce n'è ancora. Anche loro sono andati nella caverna con Mark e Carsten. Carsten ha anche scoperto un nuovo pesce, hanno visto dei Mastacembalus, penso, quelli che lui ha chiamato eel. So was the eel like a kind of Mastacembalus or something else? Was it a bigger one?
No, it was a 3 meter something. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay, so definitely not a Mastacembalus. Okay.
No. It's more like a big snake.
Okay. Scusate, quindi non era un basticimbulus, era proprio un anguillone, tipo un gronco, ha detto che era 2-3 metri, ed era una roba che si mangiava altri pesci. Non ho mai capito bene cosa fosse, però è questo. Quindi il suo posto preferito, se dovesse sceglierne uno, è Zimbabwe Rock. Adesso penso che li lascio parlare un altro po' e poi rifacciamo la stessa cosa. Ok, I'm all done with this, so you guys are free to continue.
Thank you, Enea. Yeah, we have some serious subjects that I believe everyone needs to think about. Overfishing, of course, is a big issue. It's not only ornamental, but the bigger issue is really the local fishermen, the population. If we talk about the population, I remember when I came to Malawi the first time, the Malawian population was below 8 million, 7 million something. And officially now it's almost 20 million, and it could be 23 to 25 million people really living in Malawi now. And you will also notice that the population on the other sides has increased. This is things that, of course, I have noticed, but I have not really thought so much about how critical it was until 2018. It started really to struck me that now something is wrong. And I came to Tanzania side for the first time in 2018 and did an expedition on the whole coastline. And that time I had the idea to make some export business in Tanzania. But really, what really struck me there was how aggressively that ornamental fish industry have been on some certain species. What struck me the most was High Reef, which is 4.5 kilometers or something long. It goes almost from Chai-Mate all the way to Chiwindi in Mozambique. And I have been traveling all the way on High Reef. And I might have been swimming maybe even 700 meters under the water until I find the first full color Dactari, the yellow one. I remember the Andreas Breinert book with hundreds of Dactari in one photo. I was thinking to myself to see something similar, but that was not the case. And the divers, they were much more effective than me. Obviously, they caught something like this, but I only saw one male. So with this, I didn't feel really good about doing this. There was some other fish species, obviously, on the coastline that I found was very, very endangered. And asking around the questions, what really happens here? I mean, there have been so many fish, but the export industry is growing because it's not just Europe taking wild fish anymore. China and Asia is becoming a big market. And for that, we don't really know how big, but the exporters are also many on the Tanzania side. And if they have an order on some fish, they will go and collect until they are done, not really thinking so much about how many fish is left. So it really struck me that time in 18, and coming some years later on the Malawi side again, in Chilumba North area, all the way up to Songwe. It struck me even more how much the local fishermen is doing, and that fish industry is so big. Of course, there are many people, but they're not just fishing for themselves. They're fishing because it's it's a thing for survival, for a business. They don't have a business. They not just need food, they also need to make money. And by that, they are making an industry, and you'll see something like this everywhere. And I mean, it's everywhere. And it's not just the fish from the open water. You'll see it's everything that they are basically fishing. You'll really see local fishermen everywhere around the lake. They are pulling fish with big nets where they are standing on the sand and pulling them from far away out in the lake and pulling them in and taking everything on the sand. They're also going out with their boats and canoes and taking the open water fish from 70 to 90 meters and even deeper. I see we have some questions. We
Roberto,
will take...
sì, le facciamo alla fine le domande, scusami, l'abbiamo detto all'inizio così non interrompiamo Mark. Okay, I asked her to make them at the end.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Mark,
We will take the
thing.
questions at the end because Isaac, he has a lot more questions, and when he's done, you will have a chance to ask some more questions. We will do that.
And was that a small net a mosquito net, or is it a proper fishing net?
They are using everything, but now it's obviously illegal to use the mosquito net, but they are fishing everything. And where there are rocks, they are putting out nets with bigger mask where the fish are stuck, and then they are pulling them up. And if it's sand, they're just pulling big nets over the sand and taking everything. And this is the most dangerous I see, because in the north, when I was diving many places, there's a lot of fish I didn't see, which we will come to later. But also swimming over the sand, you don't see any fish. So I found a place in Dover where there's some rocks, different places on the sand, which makes it impossible for them to pull the big nets. And that was one of the only places where I would see all the kind of species represented, but other places they would be gone. So those fish that are most affected is open water fish, everything in the open water and everything on the sand. The ambunas living on the rocks is not as heavily overfished, but they are also getting there by local fishermen and ornamental fish industry. But ornamental fish industry is more specific on some popular fish. It's not everything like the local fishermen. So overfishing, that is something we will talk more about. It needs some attention, and also the people. I mean, they are a different culture than we are here in the West. They only have each other to take care of each other. They're getting a lot of children, so they are booming. I mean, the population is growing faster than we are, but now they don't really understand. Some of them they do, that they can see that 20 years ago they could pull up a lot more fish and now they're struggling a lot. But they did not understand that the lake was a resource that could actually run out of fish, and that's what's happening now. And Cunnings was talking about this some years ago, and that's also one of the things leading to Blue Earth Institution, which I started. The thing is that the lake is dying when we take away too many fish in the open water, because now we see also that the food resource is growing in the lake. So the lake is coming more and more green, and the visibility is becoming worse and worse. And for my pictures in the lake, I can also notice that I take pictures differently now than in 18 to 20. Now I sold my 90mm macro lens because it's reaching too far and there's too much water between the lens and the fish, and now I have to use something more wide angle and get even closer to the fish, which is more challenging, but I have to do that to have a picture worth worth looking at. Otherwise, it will just be an unsharp green soup, because that's really how it looks like down there. So overfishing, this is the biggest problem for Malawi, for the lake. Then pollution, we can say everything is human-made. I could show you a lot of pictures, and I have been terrible places in Africa where there's rivers where you can't even see there's water beneath, where there's literally 2-3 meters of waste and plastic on top of the water in the river. And all of that is going out in the lake or in the ocean if we are, but it's Africa. Africa is they don't know what to do with waste or plastic. So this picture here is in Chilumba. It's a Tipu area or Jungs Bay here. And the entire beach, 5 kilometers or something, was looking like this. We'll get more into it later with Isaac's questions, but this is another big topic.
Mark, sorry for interrupting you. I don't know if a lot of people know, me being from Namibia, I'm from Africa. And
yes.
I'm a native to Africa. I'm a South African, but I'm married to a Namibian. And believe me, people, everywhere you go in Africa, the people have a mentality, and it comes down to their cultural identity. It's how they are born, it's how they are raised. When they have a piece of plastic in their hand, let's say, for example, Tom, Dick, and Harry goes to the shop, they buy a Coca-Cola or they buy a Fanta or something. When they drink it, when they're finished with it, they put it straight on the ground.
They just throw it. And that's the mentality of all Africans.
Plastics, everything. I mean, they wash their clothes in the lake.
Yes.
They throw their stuff in the lake. It's like, you know, they don't care, and it's in their cultural identity. They don't have like a sense of respect for nature, in a sense that, you know, we need to live with nature as one for Earth to properly function. But the thing is they've got this old African saying in Africa, and since I've been born up until today, I mean, I'm almost 40 years old. They've got this old saying in Africa: what comes from the ground goes back into the ground. So with that mentality, you can think of yourself, when they're walking in the streets, when they're done with a plastic bag, they throw it on the ground. They don't go to the nearest dustbin. There are dustbins everywhere. They don't walk to the dustbin. And for me, when they see me as a white person in Namibia walking, and I'm done with a, you know, like I'm done with a beer, and I take the beer bottle and I walk to the nearest can and I throw it in the dustbin, they look at me like, this white guy, he's crazy. You know, because for them it's stupid. It doesn't make sense. When he's finished with it, why doesn't he put it on the ground? You know, it's nothing. They don't see any value in it. But anyway, to make a long story short, there are other problems as well, like weather changes. I mean, Mark, he can tell a story about an accident. I don't know, Mark, if you want to tell that story.
Yeah. Thank you for highlighting the challenges of the African mind, because that is really a challenge, and it goes into their culture and their understanding of everything. So overfishing and pollution, that is some big issues. There are too many people now, and we'll continue talking about that. But the weather changes. We actually see the lake is growing. There's coming more water, and I remember in 2016 the water level was the lowest it has ever been, and then it has really come back. And last year it grew bigger than ever. At Tunduzi, the lodge where I was staying in Chilumba, I was telling them before I left this year, I was there in 22 and through New Year and in January. And when I left there, I was telling them that now they had to reinforce their location. They had to build bigger, stronger walls before the lake was coming up. And I said, because the lake did not return as far as it should have, because you had a lot of water, that is gonna be a bigger problem, because this year that you will have more water than last year, or at least the same. And that means the lake will come even further up. And last month, they sent me a video that now the lake had crushed the walls that they had built around their place. It has never reached that far before. And I said to them before I left, this year it will crush your walls if you are not reinforcing them. And they sent me a video that all the walls were in the lake now, and it's bigger now than ever. Last year, I think this was 21. I was also in Tanzania in 21, and this is around Matema area. People was literally living on the top of their house, on the roof. And this is there's a school somewhere behind here, and the road down to a school. Everything is just flooded. So the rivers, everything was running over. And I was going from Tanzania to Mozambique through crossing Songwe River. And I was spending many hours at the border because they were actually closed. You could not enter Malawi, but I did anyway. And this is Songwe River, the border between Tanzania and Malawi. And maybe this guy, this is the last picture maybe ever taken of him, because when we had crossed the bridge and the river, 10 minutes later, there's a guy from the border that helped me cross the border there. He called me and say, the bridge has just collapsed. It's gone, and there's one man who died. So there was no longer any connection. And I mean, my hairs on my arms, they were rising, because I was just thinking that, wow, if I had been just 10, 15 minutes later, I had not gone into Malawi again from Tanzania. So we see more water coming, but it's not just that we're getting more water. It's that we're getting 1 month's water in 2 days, and then we are having 1 month or 6 weeks with no water. And that has actually been the problem this year, that they were starting the rain season and they were having water. They were putting all their seeds in the ground so that they could have a nice harvest. And then they have 6 weeks where it's just getting dry again. No further rain is coming, and now all their seeds are dying in the ground. And after that, now they're getting rain, and it's getting so much, like we're seeing other places in the world, that is washing everything away, kind of rain that they're getting. And now they have a hunger so big in Malawi that people every day, they text me. They call me, how are you? We are not well here. We have no food. We have no money. And I know that the situation is really tough now in Malawi. And I have friends who really struggle with their families. And I have tried to help them what I can. And it's not gonna be enough. So this situation of hunger is really tough now. And it's obviously also the weather, which is causing big problems. So yeah, these are the things we will continue to talk about now. Before Isaac, he continues, I think, Inia, you want to do a little.
Yes, of course. Thank you guys for breaking up. And traduco ancora questo pezzetto, ancora in estrema sintesi, chi ha seguito l'inglese si è goduto di più. Diciamo che in questa parte Mark ci ha parlato di 3 problemi, sfide grosse, le principali che il lago Malawi e le popolazioni e gli stati attorno stanno vivendo. Il primo ovviamente è quello che impatta di più, insomma, gli acquarofili e così, è la pesca incontrollata, sia per fini ornamentali, e su questo ci ha raccontato un episodio in cui lui è andato a High Reef, che è un posto molto famoso, una costiera molto, scusate, è un reef molto lungo, dove c'è quell'ombuno giallo che ci ha mostrato prima in foto, che è il Dactari. Sul genere sono impreparato, io li chiamo tutti pseudotrofeus. Non so se è uno pseudotrofeus, però potrebbe. E lui si ricordava, quando è andato in questo posto, Mark ha nuotato circa 700 metri prima di vedere il primo e unico Dactari che ha visto. È andato lì con dei pescatori, perché in quel periodo voleva aprire un'attività di export dei pesci selvatici dalla Tanzania. I suoi pescatori sono stati un po' più fortunati e più abili, hanno preso quella, non so, ventina di pesci che avete visto nel piccolo filmato che era nel retino, dove c'era un solo maschio. Insomma, Mark si è un po' depresso, così l'ha fatto molto riflettere il fatto che invece nel libro famoso di Spraynet sul lago Malawi, in quello stesso posto c'erano centinaia e centinaia e centinaia di Dactari, quindi lui si aspettava di trovare la stessa situazione, invece la cosa era assolutamente diversa. Al di là della pesca per fini ornamentali acquarofili, che insomma va sulle specie più popolari e può far danni su alcune specifiche che sono molto richieste in termini selvatici, l'altro grosso problema sono i pescatori locali che pescano a fini di sussistenza. Sussistenza sia per consumo diretto, insomma, una delle poche fonti di proteine chiaramente è il pesce, ma la pesca è molto incontrollata perché questa è anche un po' l'unica cosa redditizia che si può fare in quei posti. Non ci sono tanti altri modi di fare i soldi che servono per vivere, perché uno è mangiare, però ha anche bisogno dei soldi per cavarsela sul resto delle cose, no? Comprare servizi, la casa, l'abitazione, insomma. Al di là di mangiare il pesce giorno per giorno, bisogna farsi una vita. E quindi questi pescano più che possono. E pescano in tutti i modi, danneggiando soprattutto i pesci di open water, quindi quelli che vivono, i pesci bentonici, tipo i Copatichromis, per citarne uno che abbiamo bene in mente. E ci ricordiamo anche la conferenza che ha fatto AD settembre scorso, che era proprio sui Copatichromis, e come anche lui ci abbia raccontato che sono praticamente azzerati in tutto il lago, perché insomma i pescatori escono con queste barche, pescano nelle acque aperte dove non c'è assolutamente nessuna possibilità per i pesci di scappare, con queste reti gigantesche tirano su tutto e chiaramente prendevano quasi il 100% dei pesci. Poi pescano con qualsiasi tipo di rete, molto fini, ovviamente più peschi, più stringi le maglie delle reti, così peschi anche i pesci più piccoli, perché quelli più grandi li hai già pescati tutti, questo acuisce il problema, quindi open water fish, e gli altri che vengono rastrellati in maniera incessante sono quelli che vivono sulla sabbia, un po' per lo stesso motivo, perché insomma con le reti a strascico che vengono tirate, questa volta da riva, le buttano insomma molto lontano, poi tirano verso riva, e questi rastrellano le grosse parti sabbiose e tirano via praticamente il 100% dei pesci anche lì. E questo chiaramente distrugge le popolazioni intere, perché non hanno il tempo di riprendersi, di riprodursi e di lasciare quel poco di pesci nel lago che permette alla popolazione di ristabilirsi. Un po' meno colpiti sono gli imbune, pesci che vivono molto vicino alle rocce, perché è più difficile pescarli in maniera così sistematica, però anche quelli sono piuttosto minacciati. Ma il problema più grosso sta su quelli che vivono sulla sabbia e in acqua aperta. Quindi, vabbè, Marco ha un po' desistito da questa sua operazione di voler esportare pesci dopo aver visto questa situazione piuttosto triste. E appunto citava una di queste situazioni più estreme che ha visto sulla pesca incontrollata era Zongwe. Ok, poi insomma hanno citato anche insomma che c'è un'altra cosa che è collegata all'overfishing e anche l'esplosione demografica, chiaramente. Un po' di anni fa, quando Marco ha cominciato ad andare in Malawi vivevano circa 7-8 milioni di persone, la stima attuale è circa 20 e probabilmente più vicina a 23, perché ovviamente anche, non è che ci siano dei censimenti precisissimi come abbiamo qui. Quindi questo sicuramente è una criticità, e in più la differenza culturale che insomma non hanno tanto la percezione, qualcuno sì, se ne rende conto che quello che riusciva a pescare 20 anni fa non è quello che si riesce a pescare adesso. Però c'è sempre stata questa visione che il lago fosse un po' una risorsa inesauribile, no? Che non ci fosse alcun motivo di doverla centellinare. Nascono più bambini, c'è più gente da sfamare, vogliamo fare più soldi, peschiamo di più. Okay? Non c'era questa idea che a un certo punto la cosa sarebbe stata senza una via di ritorno. Ovviamente anche il lago in sé sta cambiando in maniera importante, diciamo un piccolo aneddoto che ci ha raccontato Marco è che prima scattava le sue foto con un obiettivo da 90 mm macro, quindi una focale piuttosto lunga che ti permette di scattare anche un pelo distante dal pesce con questo zoom. Adesso quell'obiettivo lì è diventato inusabile, tant'è che l'ha venduto addirittura la sua lente preferita per fare le foto di pesce, adesso è costretto a scattare con un obiettivo molto più panoramico o con focale corta e doversi avvicinare molto di più, se no altrimenti c'è talmente tanta acqua in mezzo che prima le foto erano pulite, adesso invece vedi tutto verde per effetto di eutrofizzazione del lago e tutte queste cose. E il secondo challenge, che è un po' collegato, è l'inquinamento. Abbiamo visto una triste foto di Cilumba coperta di plastica, e Isaac, da africano nativo, quindi non sta, diciamo, non c'è un discorso di differenza europei contro africani, o insomma, Isaac è sudafricano, vive in Namibia, sua moglie è della Namibia, e dice proprio che questa cosa è radicata nella cultura africana, e hanno anche un detto che dice: quello che viene da terra ritorna alla terra. E quindi la cultura è che tu finisci una bottiglia di Coca-Cola, lì dove sei ti cade e lì la lasci. Non importa, non è un discorso di infrastrutture, i cestini ci sono, le cose, è proprio che è strano, è sbagliato e guardano male anche Isaac quando lo fa, nonostante sia africano, lo guardano storto quando insomma ha in mano la lattina di birra e fa 10 metri per buttarla al cestino. E quindi questa cosa è un po' un problema strutturale che insomma poi si vede. Infine i cambiamenti climatici, in particolare ci ha parlato del livello del lago, che ha visto nel 2016 essere molto basso, ma in realtà la criticità adesso è che diventa sempre più alto, perché insomma, la stagione delle piogge riempie molto, e poi c'è una stagione secca più corta che non fa evaporare così tanto, eccetera, eccetera. Il lago cala, ma non così, non tornando al livello di prima. Quindi l'anno dopo ripiove e risale un altro po' di più, poi cala di poco e risale di molto, cala di poco e risale di molto. Morale, nel corso degli anni il lago è salito tantissimo, perché abbiamo visto strade allagate, non mi ricordo dove era quel posto, gente che vive sui tetti delle case perché tutto il resto è completamente allagato, e ci ha fatto vedere anche questo aneddoto di lui che passa tra la Tanzania e il Malawi, in un periodo di acqua alta, il fiume Zongwe che segna il confine tra i due stati. Lui passa quel ponte, lo stesso, non si poteva, ma lui lo fa lo stesso, e 10-15 minuti dopo gli arriva la notizia che quel ponte lì è crollato sotto la forza dell'acqua del fiume Zongwe in piena. E insomma ci ha raccontato che forse quella foto lì, con quel locale che era lì a posare sul ponte, forse è l'ultima foto che questo povero Cristo ha fatto. E infine la situazione un po' umanitaria del paese Malawi in sé, perché questo lo aggiungo io, il Malawi è uno dei paesi più poveri al mondo, da sempre, ma ultimamente ancora di più. La popolazione cresce, che acuisce la cosa, i cambiamenti climatici rendono l'agricoltura meno produttiva, il lago non produce più quanto prima, eccetera, 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 e lì si fa la fame, quella vera. C'è gente che Marco conosce lì, lo chiamano ogni settimana, chiedendo: ah, come stai? Qua noi moriamo di fame. Lui cerca di aiutare come può, chiaramente è una goccia nel mare, però questo chiaramente aggiunge la criticità, perché se fai la fame e non hai il cibo non per domani, per oggi, chiaramente tutti questi discorsi di conservazione e quant'altro finiscono inevitabilmente in basso nelle priorità, perché devi pensare a campare. Fine. Ok, I'm done with this part as well. I hope it wasn't too long. There was a lot of content, so apologies.
Yeah,
for
there
that.
was a lot. Thank you, Inia.
No, that's more than a mouthful.
It's a big mouthful.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I'm
it's
really-
an important mouthful. So
a very important mouthful. I'm really hungry now. That's maybe why Tommaso ate before he came to the meeting, and Enya.
yeah.
But
I did eat as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, guys, proceed. Yeah.
Okay, so Mark, currently you are still the acting president of the Blue Earth Institution, or what's going on now at the moment? Because recently there has been some corruption that you did experience within the organization. Can you maybe elaborate more on us for that?
Yeah, well, my experience now in Africa is that you continue to be surprised, and we had two board members who was taking money and denying it and trying to hide it in the best way they could. But we found out, and more things came up to the surface when I was there on my recent trip. And unfortunately, I spent way too much time dealing with board meetings and investigations and detectives, police, chiefs, all that kind of stuff, rather than diving in the lake and doing other more important things. But we ended up to dismiss those two board members, and they also came to court. I mean, the remaining board took them to court in that district, and they did that just after I left. But I was preparing everything before I left, and it's a tricky system down there, and we had a really smart secretary who maybe might even believe that what he is doing is right, even if he's also taking allowances himself. He don't have to ask anyone else to take allowances. As of right now, 2 days ago, our board went to Congoma, which is an NGO which has the responsibility on behalf of the government for all other NGOs. And they found out that our secretary, who was dismissed, he's registered now as the executive director. So things are tricky, and we are thinking now what to say to Congoma, so that we can end this nightmare. But as of right now, I'm not the chairman or the president. I actually resigned when I was in Malawi because I could not sign any annual report that they were coming up with. So we did it in that way, that I resigned, and the other Danish board members have resigned as well. And we were doing a lot of board meetings there, and I came back on the board as a representative only of the Danish board, and we got another chairman, but he is not registered as the chairman. That is our dismissed secretary, who is recorded as the executive director. So things in Africa are tricky, and the land that we bought there is also, I don't know how all this is ending when I'm not there. I guess I have to be there to get things done in the right way, because you might think that, oh, we just have a few corrupt board members we have to deal with, but you find out that the system is also crooked, and they take advantage of this system, and they pick what they want from our board member reports, our board meetings, and they leave other things out when you are not there. So it's really difficult doing any kind of thing in Africa. And I was really hoping that I had found some better people in Malawi than the people I found in Tanzania some years before with the business I was trying to do there. But we got away from doing that kind of business, because when I was in Tanzania, I not only realized more and more about the overfishing, and when we started the NGO, we actually was thinking maybe we can sell some fish that are not endangered, but we actually ended up getting away from that idea. We also went away from using Tanzania. This is the map here, and this corner up here is Tanzania, side of the lake, and we went away from building our office in Tanzania, basically because officially, according to the United Nations and the old rules that is still relevant, Tanzania has no claim on the lake or what is in the lake. It belongs to Malawi. Obviously not on Mozambique side, but everything on Malawi side and on Tanzania side as well belongs to Malawi. So when you're in Malawi, you're also in Malawi when you're on the beach in Tanzania. But now when you enter the beach in Tanzania, they believe you are in Tanzania. So now they will come and ask you for passport and all other things. And we were thinking this is actually a relevant issue that we will bring up as in our concept note as one of our projects. And we will approach the fisheries and the government in Malawi and ask them, how are we actually dealing with this when we are talking lake management? Because we wanted to do lake management for the whole lake, not just Malawi side, but we have to enter this side and make registrations as well. But we have to do it in the right way. And Tanzania means if we come there, we have to apply and blah, 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 a lot of things through the fisheries and so on, even though that we're not supposed to do it that way around. But anyway, that's another story. Isaac, I think I spoke more than what you were asking.
Yeah, you actually answered a lot of my questions already. So
sorry.
Yeah, I'm thinking here, what can I ask you next? But,
okay.
Yeah, but you are okay. So yeah, we know there are some specific species within the lake that are registered on the CARES and the IUCN Red List as a species that are critically endangered. Some of them, who knows, maybe they are still there or not. I believe you have not witnessed 2 or 3 species that you were actually looking for that were already described many moons ago scientifically. but now you have not witnessed them anymore. One species that you mentioned are species that were scientifically described by Turner. But one of the other species, for example, Chindongo demasoni and Alanokora bainski, Melanochromis chapoke, Chindongo zalosi, just to name a few of the species specifically that are being threatened to the point of extinction. Are there other species that you've noticed that are declining really, really quickly now? Because the reason why is the CARES and the IUCN Red List is so outdated. It's really outdated a lot. And a lot of people don't actually know what's going on in the lake.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know if you can maybe show us some video material or anything that you have of the disasters that the fishermen leave behind when they are done finishing and dragging their nets through, you know, how it looks at the bottom, or maybe if you've got something to show there.
I didn't have anything to show from the fishermen what they actually bring up. It's so depressing, you know. I think I was taking some pictures when they took some with their when they were 5 men on the beach pulling, and they were pulling for an hour or so when I was watching there from Tundosi, and it's a 300-meter long net, so you suspect there's a lot of fish, but there was so few. I mean, there's nothing really on the sand anymore. But when you are talking about endangered species and IUCN and CARES and so on, that's one of the main issues also bringing us to Blue Earth Institution, because we wanted to make a BEI list, not IUCN or anything, but we wanted to make our own list with endangered species, because when I look at that list, I'm thinking, wow, they haven't been in the lake for 20 years or something like that. They really don't know what's probably going on. And that was an eye-opener to me when I was going through the Tanzania coast. Undu Reef, for instance, this is the Marmelela, and is the chief diver who caught one specimen here. I did not actually see any of them in the cracks or in the caves when I was looking for them at Undu Reef. He moved some stones, and he got this one to show me so that I could take a photograph of it. So obviously the Aulonokara here was so overfished. The same goes with the Dactari from High Reef. This one was taken at High Reef. It's the only photo I have of a Dactari from High Reef. Fortunately, I found some more at Undu Reef, where the same fish is also present. The Metriaclima dolphin, this is just a young male. It's not so spectacular as you remember it, but it's also the only one I saw at Tumbi Reef in Tanzania side. So highly endangered as well. And Msobo Magunga was actually so overfished that we actually decided not to catch any at Magunga. Luckily, you'll find plenty at Nkwasi. Nkwasi has exactly the same looking fish, and Tanzania exporters also catch them from Nkwasi and call them Magunga because it's easier to call everything the same, and then you can mix them in the same pot and sell them as Magunga. But they are not many. They were not many at Magunga, but there were more at Nkwasi, also endangered. So Tanzania side, also I didn't see any Demasoni at Pombo Rocks. There were some though. The divers saw some, but I will say that yes, ornamental overfishing is a big problem. That's me 20 years ago with some wild caught Saulosi. I believe this is the last time I had some myself. On Malawi side, things got actually worse. Maybe not because of the ornamental fishing, but the overfishing from local fishermen. So basically, I fell in love with the Mdova area because in the north, that is a big location, and it's going all the way from Lusununu to way up with rocks, but there's also a lot of sand in between. And I believe you can see it in some of my pictures here. This is the Letrinops oculatus, which I saw one day, a small group on the sand. All these species, everything is endangered. But because you see the rocks here in the background, it makes it impossible for the local fishermen to drag the fishing nets over the sand. So they have a chance to survive. The same goes here, you see, with the rocks behind. And the big placodon here, also they are also here because there are some rocks. You see a big rock in the background, so they are around the rocks, but you won't see any fish on the open sand. And I've spent in 21 I spent 7 full days diving at the Mdoka. I was trying to find the Phenocylus white lips. I wanted some nice pictures of them. And I didn't find them. In 22, I spent 7 full days at Mdova, the second location where it should be possible to find the Phenocylus white lips. But it's this fish, but I don't see them in the wild. Spending now 14 full days diving where they were supposed to be and not being able to see a single one. Other fish that obviously is endangered is everything else on the sand. Here you see the Praeopitalis and the morai, the dolphin, blue follower. Everything that lives on the sand, and as I mentioned earlier, everything in the open water, they are endangered. And you'll find them here because there are those rocks in between the sand. But you also see the fishermen. They go where the fish are. So while I was there at Mdova, I was actually finding a lot of fishermen, and we were trying to avoid swimming into the fishing nets because they put a different type of net over the rocks there where the fish, they swim into the mask and are stuck, and then they pull them up. So they will try their level best to fish that because it's them or the fish, and they will continue to fish until they can't fish anymore. It's a big problem. Also, I didn't see this. This is the Letrinops red cap from Itungi. I did not find it at the Malawi coast, basically because I didn't see anything. And I saw this Letrinops here, however. Maybe a microstoma, or maybe it could be the one with the red spot. But you see how unclear the water is, which is just normal here. Basically, I could barely even see the fish myself with my own eyes. The GoPro actually makes a lot of enhancing so that you can see something afterwards, but it's still so unclear and almost impossible to take pictures. And there's a lot of sediments in the water, but it's also very green, as we talked about from the food sources, which is now blooming. So yeah, Isaac, there's a lot of fish that are endangered, and I could probably mention many more. And maybe even there is some fish that are already extinct. By the way, the fire crest that we know from south in the lake in Malawi. They have probably been extinct for years now because of overfishing. This is not an FX. This is actually a wild caught from 2019, I think. My secret mission in Tanzania, where we actually caught some from 35 meters instead of 75 meters. And this is in the aquarium, just starting to color up. Maybe of course it's not the same as the one we knew from the south. This is a different fish, and maybe it's even a Kajosi type. I am not sure, but it's showing the red coming in the dorsal. But all these Copadichromis types is just to say that they are all endangered as well, because that is what the fisherman is living from, and everywhere you go you'll see a full canoe of Copadichromis types. So it's just a matter of time. My plan is to hopefully go to the lake this year, and I don't know if it will be the last, because I also want to see Lake Tanganyika, and perhaps this trip this year will be focusing on doing a big expedition on Malawi side to see some more before it's actually gone, and then moving to Lake Tanganyika before it's also gone there, because I understand that Lake Tanganyika has the same issue. It's just not as pronounced yet as Lake Malawi. But 2 years ago, when we came up with our concept note to the fisheries, we were saying that the lake has maybe 5 years left before you see it completely dies. And it's not a slowly death. It's something that is, I believe, is swapping just within a week or something. When it all happens, it will collapse very fast when it actually starts, because when the green stuff is coming too much, it will block too much sunlight, and it will at some point stop the food production, the algae production on the rocks and everything on the sand and so on that other fish living from. It will also kill the oxygen, and when fish, they start to die in big numbers, we know from our aquariums that soon everything is dead if you don't remove your dead fish. So this is really what we fear. And I know other people have went to Lake Malawi also recently, and I don't think the bells is ringing so loud in their ears. I don't think they see what I have seen, and I think they have been there in the good season, not in the rain season. And they have been maybe some of the same places, and they have went places where the fish are still, because there are many places the fish actually are to find. You'll find them. But I even notice when I post a picture nowadays that I get a comment, are there no fish? And that's even on the rocks where there's supposed to be a lot of mbunas, but on the sand and in the open water. Some places you'll find a lot of fish and you'll be surprised, but there's also a lot of places where you are shocked that it's completely gone. And when we were diving in Ngara area, where there's a big fishing village, it was so dirty, but I also didn't find any fish, only a few small fish, young ones, next to some rocks. So it's quite shocking. So yeah, the fate of the lake is not so good now, really. Isaac, I'll give the word back to you.
Okay, at Connings, he spoke a few years ago. He spoke about the phenomenon of the Alpvuks. The Alpvuks is not looking the same as it were 20, 30 years ago. And if you are going now, especially now, they had a lot of rain. There's a lot of fresh water coming into the lake. So automatically all the nutrients within the lake will come up to the surface. There will be a chemistry reaction within the lake because of all the fresh water coming in. It does not have a lot of trace elements as such. And now the lake starts giving a plankton bloom, huge plankton bloom. So like you said, Mark, there's a depreciation of oxygen levels within the lake. And the phytoplankton is not being controlled by the open water utaka because it's getting overfished. So there's a ecological imbalance within the lake. And the one thing leads to another. So if you take out within the food chain, if you take out the utaka and the phytoplankton blooms too much, the outbooks has a specific period in the year where it grows because of the photosynthesis. And if it doesn't get its prescribed photosynthesis period, it will not be like it were 20, 30 years ago, like Atconning stated, with the phenomenon of the outbooks not looking the same. Just a simple question, the Coprichroma species Virginalis chitande that Atconning coined before 2001, he recorded them breeding in at Chitande specifically, and with the fishing going on there in the north, the overfishing, have you noticed any breeding Coprichroma species Virginalis chitande? I know recently Professor George Turner, I believe, did in October 27th last year, he did a scientific paper where they changed the name. So I maybe could be pronouncing it wrong. It should be now Coprichroma species Maloto chitande, because what they found out was the Virginalis was not the true Virginalis, was actually Maloto. But still, did you see any Utaka breeding within their specific breeding season, which is from April to March?
No, I didn't see them in the Chilumba side, because this type of fish, as you say, you have to watch them spawning in April and May, and you also have to go to the locations they choose. And it's not a fish that are at 20 or 25 meters normally. It's a fish that is not so strong that it can take a territory at 20 or 25 meters. It will have to fight even Mbunas and other fish in this level. So often they choose like 35 meters or something. You have to go relatively deep to find them, and you also have to know where. And in the Chilumba there are of course many reefs, but I didn't go that deep when I was diving there alone to 35 or 40, those places. You mentioned Chitende Island. I went to 25 meters where I meet the sand, and maybe on the deep side. I didn't dive there. I expect that it will go deeper, of course, and maybe down there 35, 40 meters you'll find them breeding if you are there, of course, in their season, which I was only in 21, but I didn't go there. And when I was diving there, the second trip in 21 and in 22, I didn't go there. I see that there are Coprichroma among the fishermen, so I know they are there, but I didn't go for watching them that deep of those reasons.
Cool. Does Enya want to chime in?
Sure, I can. I've been
Sorry,
taking
Enya.
notes. No, that's
Sorry.
fine. That's fine. So what?
It's
was,
another big mouthful.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Okay. So
It's a big
first
mouth.
topic was Blue Earth Institution. Allora, traduco un altro pezzetto, ci sono diversi argomenti. Cominciamo dal Blue Earth Institution, che è una fondazione che aveva creato Mark in Malawi e Tanzania. è un'istituzione che voleva, insomma, così, scrivere dei report, contare i pesci e far capire, insomma, anche al Dipartimento della Pesca locale che le cose si potevano fare un pelo meglio e anche solo fargli presente dei problemi, delle criticità. C'è stato un po' di casino, nel senso che il progetto era molto bello, però Mark era il direttore, presidente, adesso non ho fatto bene il titolo, comunque la carica più alta, però ultimamente ci sono stati un po' di problemi perché hanno trovato 2 membri dell'istituzione che insomma si intascavano dei soldi, rubavano dai fondi dell'istituzione. Questo ovviamente è stato tutto negato, poi hanno scoperto, Mark ha perso un sacco di tempo tra polizia, autorità, chiaramente processi africani con tutte le criticità del caso. E queste 2 persone sono state anche processate effettivamente. Però questo insomma, ha aperto un po' gli occhi sul fatto che fare questo tipo di cose in Africa o stai lì tutto il tempo oppure appena te ne vai in un modo o nell'altro succedono casini. Questo ha portato Mark a non essere più il presidente, si è come si dice, dimesso. Altre persone danesi che erano dentro nel board si sono dimesse anche lì e purtroppo Blue Earth continua a esistere. C'è stato un po' un giro di cariche strane, non ho capito quello che era il vice direttore adesso, ma poi si è dimesso anche lui. Tutto un giro. Comunque se vi interessa la storia completa c'è il Facebook di Blue Earth Institution, penso anche un sito web dove potete vedere chi è nel board, nel direttivo al momento e quant'altro. La vera criticità è che non è che sono solo alcune persone che sono insomma nelle marce, il fatto è che tutto il sistema è lì scricchiola, è storto, come si dice in inglese, crooked, cioè è fallato. E quindi purtroppo non è cambiata la storia né quando ho tentato di fare questa cosa in Tanzania, né quando purtroppo pur Mark pensava di aver trovato persone migliori in Malawi, anche lì insomma non è andata bene. Quindi situazione in rapida evoluzione, state sintonizzati, però c'è casino. Dall'altra parte, un'altra cosa che ci ha raccontato è che a quanto pare le Nazioni Unite dicono che il tocco di lago che appartiene alla Tanzania, almeno nelle mappe, avete visto quella mappa che aveva il confine in mezzo, no? Al lago tra Tanzania e Malawi, il lago è comunque di appartenenza del Malawi, anche se sei sulla spiaggia tanzaniana e che non superi la spiaggia, diciamo tutto quello che è appannaggio lago appartiene al Malawi, non la parte Mozambico, quello è chiaro che è del Mozambico, ma tutto il resto del lago è del Malawi, anche la parte tanzaniana. E lui pensava di aprire gli uffici lì in Tanzania, però insomma far capire questa cosa che le Nazioni Unite dicono che anche se sono qua e tu pensi che sia Tanzania, in realtà sono in Malawi, perché non funziona molto in Africa. Io direi si poteva immaginare, però questo aggiunge ulteriori criticità, perché chiaramente appena arrivi in Tanzania per fare questi censimenti, eccetera, eccetera, anche se sei Blue Earth Institution e sei in Malawi, stai facendo cose nel lago, lì ti rompono subito le balle con i permessi, il visto, di qua e di là, e la vita diventa tempo zero impossibile. Poi c'è stata un'altra domanda su insomma, quali sono, sappiamo tutti che ci sono un po' di specie considerate a rischio di estinzione, che sono nelle liste più famose, quindi la IUCN, quindi IUCN è la Red List, e la lista CARES. Sono state citate alcune, tante descritte da Turner, che non ci sono praticamente più. Poi gli esempi famosi come il Temasoni, il Saulosi e la non cara Baensky. Poi forse ce n'era un quarto, ma me lo sono perso ma insomma Marco ci ha spiegato che in realtà ci sono tante altre specie che non sono in quelle liste, che vengono aggiornate, però non sono così, insomma, super aggiornate alla situazione attuale, che invece scarseggiano tantissimo, specialmente questo si ribadisce ancora, avviene per i pesci delle acque aperte e della sabbia. Quindi è stato citato l'Onocara Mamalela, in cui Mark non aveva visto nulla, il pescatore ha preso quel singolo esemplare smuovendo nelle rocce, quello che abbiamo visto nel sacchetto, solo per farglielo vedere e fargli fare una foto. Questo era un Durif. Poi il Dactaria High Reef, anche quello, ne abbiamo già parlato prima, situazione drammatica. Il Metriaclima Dolphin, ci ha fatto vedere solo la foto di un esemplare giovane, non così spettacolare, non ne ha visto nessun altro, né tantomeno fatto foto. Anche il Metriaclima Lonzobo Magunga, a Magunga praticamente non se ne vedono più. Quelli che vengono presi e ancora esportati sono in realtà di quasi, che in Tanzania c'è praticamente lo stesso pesce identico, poi gli esportatori chiamano tutti Magunga perché quello lì è il nome facile e va tutto assieme, la gente lo conosce così e tutti sono contenti. Però quasi ce n'è ancora qualcuno, mentre Magunga la storia è molto critica. Altre grandi specie della sabbia, tipo i Letrinops preorbitalis, e tutte anche come si chiamano, i Mori, i Blue Dolphin, sono tutte specie che sono molto impattate e che non ce n'è quasi più. Un posto che a Marco ancora piace adesso è Ndoa, perché è un posto che ha sì la sabbia, ma ci sono anche le rocce, e la sabbia è un po' tra le rocce. Questo protegge un po' da queste grandi razzolate con queste reti che tirano su tutto dalla sabbia senza lasciare niente. Quindi lì andò ancora qualcosina, si vede, tipo quelle foto di Letrinops che ci ha fatto vedere, qualche tenino Letrinops, queste qui. Poi ci ha fatto vedere un Firecrest selvatico che sappiamo tutti che i Firecrest tristemente sono probabilmente estinti nel lago da tanti anni. Quello lì era uno degli ultimi Firecrest che ha preso, però non è il Firecrest quello vero che sta nella parte sud del lago, probabilmente è un'altra cosa, però il pesce è praticamente identico. È stato pescato a profondità molto più basse, a 35 metri, mentre il vero Firecrest sta circa 70-75 nella parte sud del lago. Quello l'ha preso invece a nord, penso in zona tanzaniana. Comunque ahimè, il messaggio finale è che la situazione è tragica, cioè si aspetta che entro 5 anni muore tutto, perché c'è un effetto di effetto a cascata, cui insomma siccome hai tolto tutti gli utaka, nessuno mangia più il fitoplancton, quindi l'acqua diventa super verde, l'acqua super verde non fa passare bene la luce, che danneggia gli ofox perché non riescono più a fare la fotosintesi, quindi anche gli imbuna crepano. Poi quando i pesci crepano anche i livelli di ossigeno vengono, insomma, un po' c'è molti pesci in decomposizione, questo fa esplodere i batteri, a sua volta il plancton animale esplode anche lui, e morale è un sistema al collasso molto prossimo. Mark dice che probabilmente andrà per l'ultima volta in Malawi quest'anno se ce la fa, e dopo basta, perché insomma veramente sembra non esserci un po' più speranza. Dice che poi si sposterà forse a vedere un po' del Tanganica prima che la stessa roba succeda anche lì, e purtroppo tante delle criticità sono le stesse, semplicemente siamo un po' più indietro nel processo, però purtroppo insomma, sembra a tutti che stiamo andando un po' verso quella direzione. Poi c'è stata un'ultima domanda molto specifica sul Copadichromis virginalis di Citande, e gli è stato chiesto insomma se li ha visti riprodursi lì durante una certa stagione, perché ho tentato di capire, non sono molto ferrato su questi pesci eccetera eccetera, che questi si riproducono solo tra aprile e maggio, almeno questo è quanto riportato da Ad. Poi questo pesce ha anche cambiato nome perché Turner ha capito che non era un vero virginalis, era in realtà un omloto. Quindi adesso si chiama Copadichromis virgolettato qualcosa citande, omloto citande, no? È stato chiesto se invece li ha visti riprodurre la stessa stagione. Lì Mark si è perso il lato Cilumba e lui dice che no, non li ha visti neppure a 25 metri, che dovrebbe essere, questi sono pesci un po' poco aggressivi, quindi non vengono estratti sopra a competere con gli imbone e così via, ma stanno un po' più bassi a 35 metri. Quindi lui o non è andato a 35 metri nella stagione giusta, a parte che non si vedeva una mazza nell'acqua, ma so, per riuscire a vedere questo fenomeno devi essere veramente lì, in quella stagione lì, e quando c'è la congiunzione astrale trovi anche l'acqua pseudo pulita, che non succede quasi mai. Ok.
Thank you, Enea.
Done with this bit as well.
Yeah.
Enea, lo sai che ti controllo, no? Sei sempre bravissimo, sei sempre bravissimo.
Sì,
non so come
grazie,
lo fai,
Joe.
non so come lo fai.
I write it down. No, because Joe knows both Italian and English very well, so he's been checking on me and trying to spot any.
But you are doing a good job.
Yeah. Well, but Joe is very friendly, so I take it as a grain of salt. Okay, guys, you can have, I think, a shot at the final words.
Isaac, do you have more questions, or do you think it's
I
time
believe
to?
there are some people on here that wants to ask questions as well.
Yeah, I was thinking that maybe we could give the word to the audience, and I see we also have Larry and Pete here. Maybe they also have a comment.
Sure. If
Big
they want
comments.
to jump in.
Yeah, Mark.
Hello,
Can you hear
Pete.
me? Hi
Yes.
there.
Hi.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I'm coming to Italy in 2 weeks' time. You've just taken half of my presentation of the second day.
Really?
Similar things that I was going to cover. But yeah, it's been interesting. Thank you.
So
we can have it again, Pete. It's not a problem. Live. There will
are
be
you
wine,
also
so you
talking
still
about
need to
challenges of the lake, Pete?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's plenty of them, as you say, Mark. It's so much. There's so much more you haven't covered as well, isn't there? There's so many other things locally and nationally that just go on, and I think a lot of people don't know about other things within, like you say, with collecting and things like this. There are so many species that are put to the front, like Solossi and others, which people don't seem to notice gradually disappearing, as you pointed out with Demasoni and other species.
Yeah, they don't have the attention on those fish, and as you probably also know, in Africa, the locals they don't have the same feeling about what is really endangered. They see the fishes there and they catch them, and they have the understanding that they will just grow back. I don't even think we can blame them that much, probably, but yeah, there is a lot of things that need attention, and I'm glad if you guys are really also aware. Well, it's 2022 you were diving there?
Yeah, September last year.
Yeah. So you have also been there so recently that I also guess that you have to see the changes of the lake now.
Yeah.
And of course you can dive at a place where there's a lot of fish, but if you really move a lot around the lake, you will also pass by the areas where a lot of fish is gone, and it is something striking quite much, and for us with Blue Earth Institution and all that, and it just becomes a political question. And it's so big that it's too big even for Malawi, that we were thinking that even United Nations will hand down our ideas, because it's too big for everyone. They will just, I think this problem will just keep on going until it finds its natural way out. And unfortunately, I'm afraid that this is just going to get so much worse with the lake, but also with the people there around the lake. It's really not something good. So Isaac, I know you had another question, like what can we do? What can we do as rift keepers, as hobbyists? What can we do? I know you wanted to ask me this question. Now I can ask the audience this. What can we really do?
Yes, it's a tough question. And I believe there are more people on this panel that have more experience that can give a better answer, maybe, probably. But over the years, I mean, it's a really tough question. What can you do? You want to protect something that you love, but on the other hand, people need to live. And if you look at the current situation agriculturally within Malawi, as a country, within their GDP, I believe it's 36 or 37% of their annual contribution to the country's GDP is agriculture. But if you take that into consideration and you look at the amount of food that they are taking out of the lake because they need to eat, I mean, the population is exploding, which is another cultural thing within Africa. They're not conservative like Europeans, or like me being I'm of Belgian descent, but I'm 10, 15 generations down the line in Africa. And growing up, for me, this is usual. I have 2 children. They have 15 or 12 children with different spouses, and the populations are just exploding. They need food to eat. So if you look at the agricultural side of things, when they are farming, their farming methods are really primitive. They don't use first world country methods of farming. So when they are farming, they go and do manual labor. They plant the seeds, and then they take a 50-50 call on the rainy season. And if there's no food, they have to find another food source. So, and if you look at their farming methods for cattle, poultry, agriculture like cultivars, they don't have a very big broad spectrum of generating a different food source other than focusing on a quick and easy meal, which is just going in and out in your dugout canoe in the lake, and you spend the whole day fishing by hand with a line, and then you can feed your whole family. Like I said, it's poor. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. It's rated one of the poorest countries in the world. It's landlocked via import and export. So for the country's economy, they are landlocked, and they have to generate an economy where the people have food to eat, and the population needs to be healthy. But we as aquarists, we want to think everything is so easy, you know, just don't eat fish. But for them, it's not that easy. So like you can basically add on as well, within the Chilumba area, all those corrupted individuals there, when they turned on the institution, the whole group of people there, the local community turned on you via the internal fighting and the politics, and it's Mark saying this, and now it's the local saying that, but now who are they going to follow? They're not going to follow you. They're going to follow the native chiefs, the people within the communities over there, and it's really hard. It's really hard for us to help them, to give them a different perspective on how to do things right. But I believe for making their life easier, to take a lot of strain away from fishing within the lake, which is the quickest and easiest way of getting something to eat, even if there's no local economy and commerce and small businesses. I mean, you've Larry Johnson, Pete Barnes, Tommaso, Marco Isidori, and you've all been to Malawi. If you go into the villages, the commerce that are happening there, the businesses are so small, and the community is so big. So I believe if one can give them a different sense of they can start generating agriculturally food, being more productive, getting them schooled, teaching them how to properly farm, like within the first world countries, it will lift the poverty level. It will create jobs. It will lift the poverty level. There will be more food security within the country, food for themselves to eat, which they can generate themselves. But at this point in time, it's a cultural identity. They don't want to do the hard work. They want to find the easiest way out, the quickest way out. And there's this old saying within Africa, there's a lot of ways you can do something in Africa. There's more than one way you can do something in Africa, and believe me. Yeah, that's unfortunately how the bomb ticks. But I believe, like, for example, you recently employed 2 people within the Blue Institution. I believe it's a guy and a girl. The lady is Genevieve, and then there's the young lad is Chimwemwe, yes. Can you tell us a little bit about them? Because I mean, they come from poor backgrounds, and they are really nice people. They want to learn, and they want to teach people, which is very important. It forms a foundation where you can have specific people within the community to start preaching to the choir and say, listen here, you guys have to wake up. And they have to hear it from themselves. They can't hear it from an outsider, a guy coming from Europe, landing there, walking around, trying to give instructions. They need to hear it from their own people. It needs to see it underneath the water. What were their reactions for diving and actually looking within the water and seeing some places there's nothing, you know? How did they react?
Yeah, it's a good take on it. When you talk about Africans, they don't want the hard work, but there's a lot of them that are working hard. They're just not working too smart. I think they don't have the ideas or the options that they have is just too difficult or too far away. A guy like Chimwemwe, he has a dad in the community who has a new wife and some other children, and he's the age of 23, so he's living by himself. And it's also a catastrophe in their society when he meet a white man like me, and we take him in for a temporary job, only just a few months, where he's just doing something. And now people see that he's getting some money, and they don't want to help him further. Now when he don't have something to do, and he cannot buy food or pay the rent or something, he has no people to turn to. No one will help him, because they don't want to help someone who might be the lucky one and having a fortune later. So those people, they can't even go anywhere and find another job. It's a tough society, I believe. But you spoke about when they saw the lake for the first time under the water. Of course, that was a new world for them, but I don't know if they think there's a lot of fish or not, because they were diving some places where there are fish. Obviously, we choose some places where we knew there are fish, and also I think it's more difficult to understand if there is a lot of fish or not so many fish if you have nothing to compare with. When you see something the first time, you don't know if this is a lot of fish or if it's too few. But for someone who have seen 20 years ago and see now, you can see that there's a lot of changes.
True.
Sei pronto, Enea, a tradurre? Sei pronto? O fo io? Devo fare io?
Se vuoi, se hai scritto, Joe. Okay. So I'll try to, wrap this whole thing together, and I think then we can call it tonight. But thanks a lot to all of you, and then I'll leave you do the official thanks and closing of the evening. But first for the Italians. Allora, questa è stata una bella chiacchierata tra amici. Prima è intervenuto Pete, che non dimenticatevi, tra 2 settimane sarà con noi, questa volta fisicamente in Italia, così ci divertiamo anche di più, a Pisa. We will welcome you, Pete, to deepen all this great insights, and thank you, Mark and Isaac, for starting the discussion that then will continue in 2 weeks. So I think it just got better without planning much, but it worked out pretty good, I think. E quindi non mancate a Pisa. Niente, Pete ci racconterà anche lui un po' di queste cose, con molte più foto e video, perché è stato al lago adesso a settembre 22, quindi avremo materiale fresco da vedere. E poi niente, c'è stato un po' di discorso su insomma gli sforzi di conservazione, quali sono le criticità di farlo in un posto come il Malawi. Si sono ribadite alcune cose, ad esempio insomma che l'esplosione demografica è un problema, e poi ci si è un po' interrogati su, va bene, la situazione è drammatica, cosa possiamo fare noi nel nostro picco di appassionati acquarofili? Ovviamente noi piacciono tantissimo questi pesci, questo ambiente, eccetera, eccetera. La nostra priorità è conservarli. Chiaramente è difficile parlare a gente che possiede quella risorsa come il lago, ma è nel paese uno dei paesi più poveri del mondo, completamente circondato da altri paesi, quindi non ha uno sbocco sul mare. L'unica risorsa importante che ha è il lago, con un'esplosione demografica pazzesca, gente che ha 12 figli, e tutta questa roba è veramente complicato, perché non puoi dire no, dobbiamo salvare questa roba, allora la gente non mangia più. Il problema è che le alternative non ci sono. Isaac diceva che il 56% del prodotto interno lordo del Malawi viene dall'agricoltura. Vero, mi permetto un commento personale: il prodotto interno lordo del Malawi è probabilmente uguale a quello della Lombardia in generale, e il 56% dell'agricoltura comunque, lui dice giustamente, deriva da metodi di agricoltura e di allevamento degli animali che sono assolutamente incomparabili con l'efficienza di quelli che abbiamo nel primo mondo. Questo mi permette un commento personale: non è che la gente sia scema lì, semplicemente se non hai le risorse per campare domani, la logica che prevale è quella di mi tolgo il problema subito, perché sennò domani non ci arrivo vivo. rispetto a, aspetta, adesso coltivo bene con gli strumenti giusti, innaffio e mi proteggo dal parassita, tot, altro, e poi tra 6 mesi vedrai che ho il cibo bene, buono, no? Buono e tanto. Chiaramente questi si affidano un po' all'improvvisazione del momento, perché hanno mezzi estremamente diversi, cioè non è che si va con i concimi, cioè non ci sono le sementi bioingegnerizzate che producono un casino, non c'è il terreno che c'è in Lombardia super concimato, super produttivo, non c'è tutta l'acqua che abbiamo noi, il clima è diverso e tutto quanto, e quindi è vero che il 56% è agricoltura, ma l'agricoltura è un allevamento estremamente inefficiente. Quindi se quell'anno lì poi non piove come gli altri anni, succede qualcosa in questi metodi improvvisati, chiaramente tutto collassa e poi che fai? Mangiare devi mangiare e peschi di più. E quindi da questo problema insomma è difficile uscire, se non in maniera strutturale, però vabbè, mi scomodiamo dei discorsi politici che non mi sembra né l'ora né la sede di fare, perché insomma quello è terzo mondo vero, forse questa cosa chiederebbe una riflessione su come gestiamo le risorse del primo mondo e come forse le ridistribuiamo, però ripeto, non sono cose che noi 4 gatti, stasera siamo addirittura 17 a questa tarda ora, possiamo cambiare in maniera significativa, ahimè. Quindi, beh, innanzitutto, almeno del Malawi, cercate di non prendere i pesci selvatici, per quanto è possibile. Al di là di quello, poi il vero problema è che la pesca ornamentale è la punta dell'iceberg. Il problema vero è sostenere queste popolazioni che sono lì e che non hanno alternative. Questo problema chiaramente è un problema a livello paese, non a livello individui. Ci vogliono altri mezzi per affrontarlo. Livio, vuoi fare i saluti finali?
Yes, we must close. Thanks to all. Thanks, Isaac. Thanks, Mark, to having you. It was a great talk. Thanks very much. Thanks to all.
We'd also cameos from Pete and Larry, so thank you guys as well.
Yes.
And Joe,
Thanks.
of course. More
Pete,
international crowd than Italians.
Yes,
it's been great.
Ok, ci vedremo presto. Tutti a Pisa.
See you soon.
In April. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Ciao Joe,
you.
grazie.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you, Mark. Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ciao, grazie Tommy.
See you soon, Pete.